Welcome to Grit and Grow with Meghan and Sarah. Today's episode, Blocks and Barrier Files, Overcome Overwhelm.
I find the beauty in commotion, swimming by the gale, miles away.
Welcome back to Grit and Grow with Meghan and Sarah. Today we are covering overcoming overwhelm. I'm always tongue-tied. Overcoming overwhelm. So overwhelm is that feeling of being completely swamped. Have you ever felt like that where your brain shuts down? Maybe you forgot where you put your keys, or you forgot where you put your phone. That's a fun one. Or my favorite is I forget where I put my glasses. Now I only use glasses to drive, so I can't leave my house if I don't have my glasses on me. And I will be so overwhelmed that at times where I'm like, where did I put my glasses this time? Where did I put them? You felt like that? Because I'm pretty sure almost everyone has. Right, Sarah?
Absolutely. And it's fun hearing you talk. I wish I had my keys sitting right here next to me because I misplace my keys or phones so often. My husband got this thing called a tile that's now on my keychain, and I can push a button and it will make my phone beep. Or I can push a button on my phone and my keys will beep. Because when I get overwhelmed, when I get anxious, when I get like in a state, I can't find anything. Nothing.
Yep. I'm surprised I can find my clothes, it's amazing. So the thing is chronic being overwhelmed it doesn't have to control your life. Like we were joking about not finding our keys, not finding our glasses, which is so much fun. Or I have backup glasses just in case. But it's really you can make it so it doesn't actually control your life. And so chronic overwhelm the reason why we're addressing it is it can lead to serious consequences, not just the mental feeling like you've just lost everything in your mind, but including physical. And so it's important to learn how to manage these feelings before they can take a toll on your well-being. And that's really important to me as the massage therapist and as the coach, that I want to always bring in like how things are going to affect your general well-being, your physical, because you actually can create physical symptoms from overwhelm. And if they go on too long, they can be really serious symptoms. Okay. So some of the symptoms of overwhelm, I'll go over the physical, and then Sarah, you can go over the emotional. How's that? So physical is feeling exhausted. How many of you feel exhausted regularly? I know, Sarah, you and I discussed it. I've been better the last week and a half, almost 2 weeks since I started taking my thyroid again. But just feeling that feeling of complete exhaustion, that's a big one. That's a big physical symptom. Having frequent headaches. I know I get those. Sometimes more, certain times more than others, but I'll get headaches and I know it's because I'm stressing. Experiencing digestive issues. I don't know that. I don't know about that one. And struggling with insomnia. What were we just talking about? I'm exhausted. I'm falling asleep on the couch. And as soon as I lay down, boop, my eyes open. That is that stress. That is that overwhelm. That is that I have 9,000 things in the burner right now. And what do I do? So those are the physical symptoms going on.
Wide awake.
And Sarah, what are the emotional ones?
You know me and my slow internet. I'm still hoping to pull up our podcast document so I can read over it. All right, here it comes. Let me get to our notes here. We had talked about some good things.
We do. We try to. My dog is sleeping, dreaming over there because he's making that burp burp sound, like they're underwater. Yeah, that's what my dog's making right now. Yes.
So some of the emotional symptoms, and these are things that come up more for me. And it's interesting because I have dealt with feeling anxious or having anxiety for so long that it became who I was. I was anxiety. I showed up and made other people anxious. And so anxiety is a huge part of overwhelm. Being stressed. I almost was going to call you out, but in a loving way. You didn't use overwhelm earlier when we were talking. You said you're very stressed. And as we started talking, and then you're like, and so this is the podcast we're going to do. I'm like, I wonder if she realizes she's like channeling right now, because yeah, stressed is one of the things that you feel when you're overwhelmed. Irritability, you can be depressed, you can get frozen and not able to move forward with things, all from overwhelm. And these are things that I have dealt with. Absolutely. If I get too overwhelmed, I can't do anything. I get frozen. For me, it's overwhelmed physically or it's overwhelmed emotionally. And so I'm not going to go on about the things that I do to manage my overwhelm yet.
So, but the thing is, guys, like what we're trying to show you guys with this podcast is
Let's just be overwhelmed.
Yeah, right. Is that it's not just because we're coaches, just because I'm a mindset coach, just because I help you deal with this doesn't mean that I don't help myself deal with this, or that I don't have someone else that calls me on stuff like Sarah, who loves to call me out on everything. So it's not that we don't suffer from it. It's that we've learned different techniques to help us. And that's why we're wanting to help you, is because we've learned these techniques and we know these will help. Now, do we have all the answers? No, you might find something works for you. And I want to know about it, because what happens then is that goes into my toolbox for the next client. But there are some behavioral symptoms, and I'm looking at these behavioral symptoms and I'm laughing because you and I both do this: procrastinating, avoiding tasks, and having difficulty concentrating. We don't do that. Nope. Nope, not at all.
No hiding from the podcast.
We do those. And that's
well,
something.
Honestly, I feel like that's almost why we started this podcast.
Yes.
Is to hold us accountable, to get us to stop procrastinating. And like what you were just sharing is that, you know, we're not talking about helping people with these things because, well, I never have this problem, so this never comes up for me, so I'm going to talk about it. It is completely the opposite. These are things that were debilitating for one of us or both of us at some point, and we went and learned tools to overcome them. We went and got support to overcome them, whether it was a counselor or an NLP certification or a leadership course. We have done the hard work, and honestly, we continue to do the hard work. You know, we both work with coaches. We're both involved in courses to continue developing ourselves, because we understand that everybody's got something to learn and everybody's got something to teach. And we want to be in the position of helping people get past some of the things that are stopping them. And I'm really proud of us for doing this podcast, as we are, with the conditions that we're dealing with our kiddos in the background, with our dogs dreaming or chewing on themselves next to us. I hope that this can be an example and a testament to people who want to get out and do something. You know, I'm really nervous. I'm really scared. I've been procrastinating marketing this podcast because I'm scared of the feedback. I feel like our standards are not high enough to compete with what's going on right now. And so I'm so grateful that you're like, no, I'm doing this. And you did quite a few of them before. I'm like, that sounds fun. I'll do it too. So I've gotten this far, but I'm still not committed and excited. And let's have everybody come look at this. Most of me is going, oh God, oh God, oh my God.
Well, and that, you know, that goes back to what I learned with that one coach that I listened to and I worked with a little bit, was that the whole, if I wait for perfection, I mean, we could have waited for perfection before we started this podcast, practiced it, make sure everything is perfect. The lighting, our makeup, everything is perfect. And how long would that be?
Yep, never.
So
because we wouldn't prioritize it.
Exactly. So we're doing it imperfectly, and that's okay. We're not perfect. Yep. We're doing it imperfectly. Yep. We have a little lag here sometimes. We joke around, we tease each other and stuff, but we're doing it. This is who we are. We're being real. We're being authentic to who we are. Sarah and I always call each other out, even if we don't want to. We call each other out like, honey, there might be a little thing in what you're saying right there that you need to go and think about. So we do that because that's who we are and that's what we do for each other. And that's what we're trying to show you. Like, this is a good thing to have people on your side that are going to call you out nicely, but call you out to make you recognize what's going on, what you're doing, and how you can help yourself. That's why we do this. And so when it comes to overcoming overwhelm, we all suffer from it. There's not one person I don't know that has not suffered from it in their lives, because if they have, they're like the most blessed people on earth, to be honest with you. But, you know, overcome it. So you're going to notice that some of these things are really similar, right? Right, Sarah, compared to some of the other stuff that we've talked about. Some of these tips and tricks to overcome it, they sound really familiar. So let's go into number one. I'll do one, you do two. Mindfulness and meditation. Practicing mindfulness and meditation can help you stay present in your moment, not thinking about the 9 billion things you've got to do, but let's stay right now, right here. Let's do this. Sarah and I do these podcasts. I have dishes, I have laundry, I have all this other stuff that needs to get done because I was working all day, but I'm not thinking about those right now. I am thinking about what I am doing right here because I need to be mindful and I need to be present in the moment.
You're stressing me out. You just made me remember about I got behind yesterday. We were in Salem all day with appointments. So I got behind yesterday. I'm like, no, I'm focused here. We are going to talk to people about managing it.
Ah, well,
But like, honestly, I used that even yesterday. Used mindfulness yesterday while at the cardiologist, sitting in the chair. I was able to be completely present to what's happening now. I did not allow myself to run any scenarios of what if, what if, what if. I wasn't hyper aware, wasn't anxious. I was actually able to like lean into it and be like, isn't this really cool? To the kid who wasn't having the procedure done, because I had two kids with me, I'm like, oh, I've never seen an ultrasound of a heart before. Look at that. And it was very cool. And that's how I was able to feel emotionally during this process that could have been very stressful, very overwhelming if I had worked myself to believe that there's going to find something wrong, they're going to find something wrong. And they didn't, and everything's great. And so it's nice to not to have to suffer when you don't need to. And it took a lot of personal development for me, and kind of was talking about those leadership counseling classes and the counseling that I've done, to realize that I was causing myself suffering. I was choosing suffering. I was creating thoughts that created suffering. I was remembering things that created suffering. And it made me so mad when people would point that out, that there's actually nothing happening to you. You're doing this to yourself. Yep. And I can remember being so hurt and so offended because I wanted someone to validate me. I actually did that to Adam 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago, I talked to him. Do you remember me telling you about I was having a hard time because I couldn't feed Octavia right after her tonsillectomy, and I knew she was hungry, but I couldn't feed her. And he's like, it's not that you can't feed her. It's that she doesn't want to eat. There is no lack on your part. It has nothing to do with you can't feed her. She just doesn't want to eat. And I got so mad at him for telling me this because I just wanted him to validate me. I just wanted him to give me a hug and let me cry on him that I can't feed my baby right now. And he didn't do that. He literally said the same thing to me like 3 or 4 times. And what was funny was I actually got so mad, I couldn't remember how he reframed it for me. And so I asked him last night, I'm like, do you mind telling me again how you reframed it? And he's like, serious? And I was like, well, it's not that I wasn't listening. It's that I didn't have any space to hear you because I was mad you didn't give me the validation that I wanted. I wanted to come and cry to you. I'm literally crying now all of a sudden. I wanted to come and cry to you that I can't feed my baby. And instead of you being like, I know, honey, it's so hard, you were like, that's not true. That's not what's happening. And it's so funny, not funny, but it's wonderful. And I'm grateful that my partner and I have gotten to a place of communication where I can let him say it and I can be mad that he's saying this to me. And there was no breakdown from it. And then days later, I can come back to it and be like, hang on a minute. That might have been what I needed to hear. Can you say it again? And I even joked with him and I was like, you realize I just wanted you to validate me and I was mad that you wouldn't. And I can't remember back, but he said something funny about, I'm not always going to validate you. That's not I don't have to validate you. He said something funny like that, but I'm just like, and again, this is why I want us to do this work. This is why I'm proud of us for recording. And I am going to hold myself now accountable to marketing to it, because these are the kind of stories I want to share with people that we can go, I'm 16 years in with my partner and he and I have never had an intimate conversation like that, where his perspective that was helpful to me was able to land without it creating a breakdown when he introduced the idea, or creating a breakdown when I took back to it because I didn't understand it. I was still chewing on it, but I still didn't get it. His meaning still had not landed. We've talked about intention over impact. I was still the impact. I had not yet got his intention. And it's the work I'm doing with you that gave me the space emotionally to get there.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy that you got to that space, because it does take a lot to be able to hear someone when they're not giving you what you want. And that's the hardest part. When they're not giving you what you want in that moment, verbally, you're like, I don't want to hear this. You're wrong. I don't want to hear this. You're wrong. And to be able to remember enough of it to say, okay, can you tell me how you said that again? Because I know there was something important in there, but I can't remember exactly how you said it. And to be able to go back and look at it is very important. And that kind of brings me back to what I said to you the other day in the thing. And I said to you that there are times where you do call me out, especially if I'm in an emotional situation, like stuff with my daughter. And that can be very emotional for me, or even my lawsuit right now. those two are very, very passionate about. And so there's times where you said, well, what can you do? What can you change? What can you? And I'm sitting there going, I don't want to hear this right this moment. I just want to have my moment of anger. Leave me the hell alone. And that's what I'm thinking. And I'm trying so hard not to put that out to you because I just need that. But then later I do go back and I do like, I know I heard you. I just couldn't hear you. And so I go back and I actually look at what you said. I pull it out from my brain and I say, okay, this is what she's saying. She's right. But I didn't need that at that moment. What I needed was just to have the vent. And now I can go back and look for solutions. And so sometimes it's just a matter of that moment. And to recognize that as that's a progress for you. And I'm really happy that you've made it because that is staying mindful of the people around you. That's more self-aware of the people around you, and that it's not worth getting into an argument with him over. But at the same time, you might not be 100% wrong, right? You might need to look at it a different way. But it's very mindful and it's very self-aware.
Right.
So time management.
Well, and it's also like I've become self-aware enough of myself to like even words to what I need. Go ahead, we froze.
I'm not frozen.
Oh, I must have been then. Do you want me to do time management?
Yes.
All right. So one of the things to do to manage your overwhelm is to create a schedule. And when you create that schedule, you really want to prioritize tasks. And this is so fun for me to talk about because I feel like I've talked about scheduling recently. But when we prioritize our schedule, prioritize our tasks, it allows us to feel less overwhelmed and less stressed because then we know the most important things are getting done because they're written down, they're in the book, they're going to happen. Like that really helps me. And learning to say no to unnecessary commitments. I had to say no to my sister and going to Enchanted Forest on Tuesday, which is a like amusement park here in Oregon that she and I used to go to as kids with our dad. And I was actually really excited to go, but it just did not work out with the full schedule that I had this week with the kids' appointment. And so I had to decline. I had to set that down and say, I would love to go. However, I'm going to say no because of this. And I love my sister dearly. She didn't respond at all. That's how she takes my boundaries of no. There's no, okay, no problem. There's no, it's just no response.
Yeah.
So another time management strategy that you can use, things like time blocking works really great. Megan actually, I think, does this a bit more because instead of like deciding when she's going to do which tasks, she just knows that, you know, at this certain time of the day, I'm going to get these things done. And just setting time aside for that kind of stuff is awesome. And this might sound like a really crazy thing, but one thing that I started doing back in 2021, when my life got crazy on me, I went through a separation and lost my house in the same 6 months. I started planning times to feel whatever it was I needed to feel because I needed to function. I needed to take care of my kids. I needed to do things. I had tasks that I needed to do. And also I was grieving. I was angry. I was overwhelmed. I was all sorts of emotions and I needed them to pass. I didn't want to keep carrying them around with me. And so I really would book time where I'm not doing anything. And sometimes I would cry. Sometimes I would nap. Sometimes I would go for a hike. Sometimes I would go to the gym and really work out hard. There was all sorts of ways that I used to work through whatever I was feeling. And that only happened because I set aside that time, be free or to not be controlled, to not be needed by anyone else.
Yeah, that's definite. And, you know, I had a client.
And I've not heard of the Eisenhower matrix. I would love to hear you tell me about the Eisenhower matrix to help us stay organized.
Lord, you would ask me that because I had it completely. Hold on one second. I had it and then
No, we'll include it on a link.
We'll include it in a link.
We'll talk about it later. You can do healthy habits.
Okay. Well, I wanted to say like what I did was I had a client a few years ago. That's it. Do it, schedule it, delegate it, delete it. So you make a list of what to do, what to schedule, what to delegate to other people, and what to delete. What don't you need to deal with? And what don't you need to deal with? So that's the Eisenhower matrix. I knew it was something really, or another way of thinking about it is urgent, not urgent. So urgent was do or delegate, and delete, or not urgent is schedule or delete.
Yep.
So that's
we don't have to do all things all the time.
And what I did with a client a few years ago was I had a realtor reach out to me. She had seen something on my Facebook and she reached out to me. She goes, I am so burned out. I want to quit realty. This is when here in Florida, right after COVID, realty went crazy down here. Like people were just moving down here like crazy. You could have your house on the market for less than 24 hours and have 50 bids for it. That's how crazy the
Oh
market
my
was
God.
down here.
That's bananas.
Yeah. So she's like, I'm in burnout. I can't do this anymore. I want to quit. I said, okay, let's talk. So we sat and we talked, and I started off with simple things like, what do you need to get done today? Let's look at what has to be done today. And I started having her just list out. I said, okay, you have 5 things, do them. And I'll talk to you in 2 hours. And I literally walked her through a few days of this. And then she started doing it on her own. In the morning, she'd call me and say, this is what I have listed for today. These are the most important. These are second important. These are the third. I said, great. I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you at the end of the day, see what you got done. Then all of a sudden she's ahead of me. I'm like, awesome. Because now she got out of that overwhelm, got out of that and started thinking, started prioritizing, started saying, okay, this absolutely needs to get done today. Let me get it done. Then I'll work on the other stuff. So a lot of times it's just having someone literally sit there and talk you through it a few times. And then all of a sudden it clicks and you start going with it. So see, Sarah, I do know all those methods. I just don't always use them 100%. So healthy habits. Healthy habit. 1, make sure you're getting enough sleep. That's a big one because your body rejuvenates when you sleep. Okay. You'll feel better. Your brain will be more focused. Eating nutritious foods. Moderation, to me, moderation is good. Like I eat my nutritious, I eat my vegetables, I eat my fruit. I love I love all my different foods, right? But I also love my chocolate and I love my brownies and my ice cream and all the things that are not necessarily the most nutritious. So it's all about moderation, and you don't, I always believe that if I sit there and tell myself I can't have something, it's going to make me want it more. So I don't tell myself I can't have it, but I get like the little cups of ice cream that are like this big, and that's my serving. Just that. My mom calls me the ice cream Nazi because when she comes to visit, I give her the cup of ice cream and that's all she's allowed to have. She's like, you're the ice cream Nazi. So I just, it's all in moderation, but so eating nutritious foods, engaging in regular physical activity. Now I know, Sarah, you and I have been suffering not doing that for a while. I just got back into it. I can't do it every day yet. Starting tomorrow, I should be able to do it more often. So, but I'm trying to get back into doing going to the gym and doing my exercise every day. Everyone should do something physical every day, even if it's going for a walk, just something physical every day. So these habits can boost your energy, help you focus, they help your resilience, they help all of these parts of who you are and what's going to get you through things and what's going to help you feel happy for what you do have and create the resilience to get through things that do come up. And yes, I know those two. I'm going to go over those in a little bit.
So another thing you can do to help manage your overwhelm is to seek support. Don't hesitate to ask to friends and family or a coach for help or just to listen to you. People want to help. People want to be involved. Nobody wants you to suffer. I choose that belief, even if it's not true. And that might sound silly, but that's one thing that I have grabbed onto is that I'm going to choose the belief that serves me and I'm going to leave the ones that don't serve me aside. And so I choose to believe that no one would want me to suffer. And everyone wants to help me. And that has allowed me to ask for help much easier over time. And again, that belief was even hard for me to say. I choose it because I know it serves me, and me wants to be healthy. Me wants to, be able to show up for my kids every day. And that's actually one thing, the seeking support. I use that a lot. I mean, like a lot. Meghan and I have talked before to where I tell her, I'm like, I can't get myself out of a breakdown until I have ran my mouth, which I'm a verbal processor. That's what I need. And so I have figured out, and I have relationships where I can get that. And it's interesting because Meghan, you've told me before, you're like, I kind of needed to do the same thing, but like I need to be in the breakdown. I need to be in the big feelings. I need to just be that way and let it all out and, go up to the extremes verbally. And then I need time to myself. And then I come back and be like, yeah, hang on, just kidding. And so it's cool that we're like the same, but we're also very different. That's really cool because it makes this work out nicely.
Yeah. And I do, like, I've called you and I know that I need that, but I need someone to hear it, not just me do it in my head. I've called you or I've gotten on a Zoom with you and I've been like, and you're like, okay, what can we do? And I'm like, and I'm like not hearing you. I'm just keep going. I'm like, I'm not even gonna. I'm gonna pretend I'm
Yeah.
talking to myself, but I'm
Yep.
talking to her. And for me, I just have to go through the feelings. I have to go through all of that because I used to be the one that buried it all. I used to be the one that just held everything down, and then the wrong thing would set me off, and it would set all of this held down emotion. So now I just let it out. And I just let it out and I say, okay, this world, this is
Yep.
what I've got. This is what this did to me. And then I move forward. And I seek support. Like you've been definite help to me with some of the stuff going on with my daughter and also with
Yep.
the lawsuit. I'll just call you and say, and just go off. And you're like, okay, she's in one of those. Let's go. And I get through it and I go to the other side. And I'm like, okay, well, now this is what I've done. I've done sent this email. I've done this. I've done this. I've done. And you're like, okay, yeah, I was going to ask you what you were planning on doing. I'm like, I did that while I was bitching to you. Like I did all of this. My head did this while my mouth did this because I can do both. So, everyone handles it differently, but
Oh, that's
definitely
awesome.
seeking support and really getting friends or family or even us as coaches, getting us to help you through it, even if it's just listening to you. That makes a big difference, especially if you feel you're unheard in most of your life. Having someone that's there just to hear you, just to be there with you can be really important.
Yep. And it might kind of sound silly, but I was just I was literally crying like 3 minutes ago talking about how I knew I needed validation. I asked for validation. My husband said he's not going to give me that. He's going to be authentic and answer authentically. That's okay if that's not where you are. That's okay if you literally get stuck in, I need what I need, and I'm just going to keep needing it until I get it. We would love to hear you. We would love to validate you. If you need to be validated, we can absolutely do that. If you've had something big go on in your life and you need someone to hear you, we can absolutely do that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there are things that happen in our life that we need to talk about, but we don't know who to talk about with them. And society says, go to a counselor. You should pay a counselor. And that would be lovely. But that's not in everybody's budget. Counselors are professionals that went to college and they're going to charge you at least $100 an hour, I would guess. And so that might not be an option. And so I really want to make sure people know that we're here and we're an option. And I want to meet people where they're at. I want to meet people's needs before we start pushing the envelope or pushing their boundaries and helping them grow, because you cannot grow until you get what you need. It's like we were just talking before. If you're not getting good sleep, there's almost no way you're going to be able to concentrate. You know what I mean? There's no point in addressing the concentration issue if you're telling me that you're not sleeping. A friend of mine has got a watch that she wears when she sleeps, and she's like, I've not been getting any deep sleep. I'm feeling exhausted. There's something going on. And so that's the root cause. And instead of dealing with, oh my gosh, I'm suddenly grumpy all the time, maybe I'm bipolar. No. Let's not talk about the grumpy. Let's fix the sleep. And then if you're still grumpy, then we'll talk about the grumpy.
And that's where I was up until last week when I started to, 2 weeks, whatever, I started taking my thyroid again. I remember telling you my concentration's down, my focus. I can't focus on anything. And some of it's the overwhelm, some of it's the stress, but there's something else, another reason. I said, okay, after 4 years, I'm going to go back on my thyroid. And I got the thyroid, I got my blood work and all that stuff. And they put me on medicine. And I have a watch that does that now too, because you made me get one that has my blood pressure and stuff. And so I now have a watch that shows that. And last night I slept for 6 hours and 43 minutes, and 5 hours and 16 minutes of it was deep sleep. That's not been something I do for like the last 4 years. Right. I do not get 5 hours of deep sleep. I get 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and that's it. And there's not a lot of deep sleep. Now I'm actually going into deep sleep again. And what has happened since then is my focus is better. I'm handling things better because I'm not overly exhausted physically. I might be emotionally and I might be like overwhelmed in my head because there's a lot going on, but I can handle it better now because I'm getting the sleep that I need.
Yep.
So, Miss Sarah, I know this is one of the things that we've been working on with you as far as setting boundaries. So, how about you talk about setting boundaries and how that can help with overwhelm?
Learn to say no to additional commitments when you're already feeling overwhelmed, and this will protect your time and energy. Setting boundaries is such a difficult and also powerful thing, empowering thing. And as she was just saying, I'm still really working on it. But it's been interesting for me to shift from being the mom to a bunch of really young children, and so my language is that, to, now most of my children are adults at this point, and so that language is different, and I still really struggle at it, being able to tell somebody not to do something without telling them not to do something. Is I get tripped all over it. Yeah. Like and it shows up in my business. I don't have boundaries in my business, and it's causing me some negative impact. And so, kind of like, girl, I can feel like I can talk about how I suck at this. I can't tell you how I'm good at boundaries.
Okay, so, but that's the thing. Like, first, the number one thing is acknowledging it. So some of us are better at boundaries than other, and some of us in certain parts of our life we're better at boundaries. So for me, used to be one, and I was just talking about this with a client today. I used to be the one who always wanted to believe in the best in everyone. I would search for something good in each person I met. Even if I had to go through a whole bunch of crap, I would search for that one good thing that I could just hold on to. I've gotten to a point where I'm done. At a certain point, if you're not showing me, I'm not going to search any longer. It's not worth it to me to search for something you're not willing to meet me halfway with. There's boundary. Like, I was bad at that boundary. That was a very hard boundary for me. I learned it. I think I told you the other day, I learned it while I was teaching. Like, when I wanted their education for them more than they did, I had to set a boundary for myself. Well, setting that boundary, learning to set that boundary helped me set the other boundaries within my life. Saying no to people, like just not saying, yes, I'm going to do this, this, and this. That didn't really fully come until I had Brianna, because now I'm like, okay, well, I have a daughter and I am not taking my time away from her in the evening. So I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this unless it's very specific to networking for my business, or if it's just going out to have fun. Yes, there are times that Joey and I will go out to one of them to an event as a couple because we use it as a date night. But if it's just me going out to have fun, I don't do that as often anymore because I have a child and I want to be here for her. I love cuddling with her when she goes to bed. I'll sit in there and snuggle with her. I call her my snuggle bug, and we'll snuggle and she'll fall asleep and then I'll leave the room. But I know she's asleep and I'm not giving that up. So that's a boundary for me. So I've set a lot of boundaries with commitments because I can't do anything past this time. Not doing it. So it's hard. You have to believe. One of the things I realized was I had to have a lot of self-confidence to set the boundaries that I wanted to set. I had to believe in myself and I had to believe in my boundaries in order to set them and hold them, because people will push the boundaries whenever they can. So I had to believe enough in why I wanted the boundary, and I had to believe enough in myself to hold the boundary. What?
You know what? While you're talking, I realized I'm like, I did set a pretty hard and fast boundary about 4 months ago. I refused to prioritize someone else's business over my child's health. I refused to accept my pay being messed up again. I actually didn't even tell them I'd set the boundary. Just, I'm done. That was something that was so hard. I've talked about on the podcast. I still grieve it. I still have dreams about patching up the relationship. I still have dreams about working there again. I still, and so it's, but there was no way I could continue. The state that I was in because of those circumstances was not something I could continue. And that's cool. It's hard to set boundaries like that, but it's so funny because I say there was no other way, but there was another way. I could have continued on, and I can't even imagine what kind of breakdowns then would have continued. I can't even imagine. And I didn't want to imagine what's next. And that's where I got. I'm like, let's see. I've already dealt with physical bullying, verbal bullying, sexual harassment, discrimination because I have mental health issues. I think the fact that now they've whoopsied my paycheck twice in a row, I think I'm out.
I think I'm done. But yeah, there's always another option. The other option is continuing in allowing someone to continue to treat you the way that's making you unhappy. That's always an option. And a lot of people choose that option because it's the more comfortable one. I call it what do I say? I say uncomfortable comfort zone. So you get used to something that's your comfort zone, right? So you're not happy, you're not comfortable, but that's what you're comfortable with. So therefore that's the status quo for you. And you're going to stay there. What setting
Yep.
boundaries
Yep.
means is getting out of that comfort zone and saying, no, I'm not really happy with that. I want something better. And I'm not going to allow you to treat me, or I'm
Yep.
not going to allow this situation to continue because I need something more and you're not willing to give it to me, so we're done, and it can be
Yep.
very hard. I've lost friends over it. I've lost people in my life over it because I wasn't willing to put up with it, whether it's
Yep.
just someone thinking that they're my boss and they're not, someone thinking, like
Yeah.
I've lost friends
Well,
over
it's like,
setting boundaries.
yeah. I had a client I was going to start doing work for here locally, and we're in Oregon, so we're very 420 friendly. No big deal, but it's still not something I do in front of or around my children. And she happened to have two daughters that were really close in age to my daughter, within 2 or 3 years. And so I was going to bring my daughter and her daughter and let them play, and it was going to be great. And then I realized she is just going to start smoking marijuana right in the same room with her children, because that's how she lives. And I am not in her home to judge her, but I am not okay with that for my daughter. And we did not go back. And I found an excuse to leave real quick. And that's one of those things where, like, I didn't call her out for it. I have no reason to call her out for it. And that's the thing that I have learned over time. I used to, and like old Sarah would have said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that." Or old Sarah would have said something or done something, and new Sarah just creates her boundary, and I don't even need to communicate it, because and that's something that's really awesome. I used to get offended a lot. I used to need people to listen to my opinion. I used to give my opinion to people all the time, and then I adopted this mantra that worked for me to keep my mouth shut, and that mantra was, people pay me for my opinion. It taught me to keep it to myself unless they're going to pay me for it.
So basically, setting boundaries, if you need help setting boundaries, that is something that we are good at. We can help you with, because between the two of us, we can help you figure out what your boundary is and help you back you with supporting, with holding it. The last one is breaking down tasks, and it kind of goes with that time management, but large projects can almost always be broken down into manageable tasks, so steps. So the large project can be really overwhelming. Like when we started this podcast, to us, this is large compared to our businesses and our children and everything. And we just said, okay, one day at a time. And we record, or we do, the other day we did live, and then I take it and I edit it, and I edit it as I can. I don't sit there and stress over it, because it's a task that needs to get done, but I'm not going to sit there and be up all night doing it. But breaking down tasks, and really, what's the most important task of the project? What's the end result you want, and how, and you break it down into manageable steps to help you feel less overwhelmed and it's less daunting to you. Right, Sarah?
Yep. That's like with my website course. You can't think about the whole website at once. You've really got to start with one step at a time, one thing at a time. If you keep looking at the whole thing of it, you can just go into overwhelm and not be able to move forward at all. And so you've got to know the step by step by step by step by step to get it done. And you got to do the steps. For fuck's sake.
That is true. That is true.
I'm fine.
So I wanna make sure that everyone knows that being overwhelmed is very common, and it's okay to be overwhelmed. Just like just about anything we've talked about, that's like the overwhelm, the fear of failure. It's okay to feel it. It's okay to recognize it. It's okay to be in that place for that moment. What we're talking about is saying, okay, I know I'm overwhelmed. What are the steps I need to do to get out of this overwhelm and start focusing on what I want? And that's with the fear of failure. That is with time management. That is with everything we talk about. It's okay to be there, but is that where you want to stay? It's okay to visit, but are we staying there and being in that mode of breakdown forever? Are we going to say, okay, I'm here? Kind of like I do with when I get mad and I get frustrated. I'm here. This is where I'm at. This is where I need to be right this moment. But am I going to stay there? No. I always move on.
Right.
It's just a matter of, I need to get that. I need to be there. I need to be in it. And then I can move past it.
Yep. Something that I've heard, and I can't even tell you where or who said it at this point, so all credit go to somebody else. But it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. Maybe it was a grief thing that I heard it, but they're like, it's okay to be that way. Just don't unpack and live there. Don't make that your new state of being.
Exactly. It's not a place to stay. It's not, you don't want to stay there. You want to move forward. So we all feel overwhelmed. I mean, like we were joking earlier about the keys and the glasses and the phone and all those things, and having to get special things to help us remember where they're at. but it's not okay to stay there over time. It's okay to be there in that moment, but it's not okay to stay there because you don't move forward. So that's where we're here to help you. So the effective strategies we kind of went over are the mindfulness, the time management, healthy habits, seeking support, settling boundaries, and breaking down tasks. Right, Sarah?
Correct.
So there was one thing I wanted to go
So
over.
we are going to make some of these PDFs. Oh, go ahead.
Yes. There was one thing that you pointed out to me that I did not go over earlier. So some techniques under the mindfulness are the deep breathing. Really, we taught my daughter the bubble one. So it goes, so that's what we do for her to help her when she needs to calm down. Deep breaths, really thinking about how deep can you go with your breath. A body scan. This almost always puts me to sleep, but I'll lay down and I'll literally scan from my toes up. I'll close my eyes, take some deep breaths, and I'll scan from my toes up. Like, how does that feel? Am I feeling tight? Am I feeling pain? What am I feeling? And I'll go all the way up as high as I can until I fall asleep. I almost always fall asleep doing that. But it's a body scan. Then you become very in tune with your body and what you're going through. I know, I just thought of that too. What you're going through is affecting your body. How the mental is affecting your body. And then there's always guided meditation, which we discussed the fact that I was going to do some guided meditations and I have not done them. So I will work on them tomorrow. I will work on getting some guided meditations onto the podcast after the ones. I'll just put guided meditation in the name of what it is. But I'll give you guys some guided meditations. You listen to them and you just kind of meditate into that feeling of not overwhelmed, feeling of you can do this, you can get this, and you'll be okay. And I'll do a few of them. So we're going to, Sarah, do you have anything else that you would like to say?
I don't think so. This is a really good one. I know we talked about, and I guess one thing we didn't really talk about, we talked about the physical and emotional symptoms to know when you're in overwhelm. And so maybe if you're having trouble identifying how you're feeling, write down your symptoms, get in touch with your body, figure out and it's so funny because they say figure out what's going on, but we're actually not trying to tell you to figure out what's going on, but put a name to what's showing up.
Definitely. And implementing at least one of these. I really encourage you guys to implement at least one of these or two of these different tricks that are tips that we've given you today. Start implementing them today. Try a meditation. Try looking at your, breaking down the tasks that you're feeling right now. You're feeling are just so overwhelming. Break them down. Write them down, break them down, set them. This is number one priority. This is number two priority. Get them down and get them out of your head, because when things are in your head, they're so much worse than when they're down on paper. It's amazing how everything that's in your head, you write it down on paper and it doesn't seem like that much. And then you're like, whoa, that's really not that bad.
Yep. I call that a brain dump.
So brain dump them, everything that you need to do, brain dump it, and then prioritize it. And then set up your schedule based on those, probably the top ones first. Okay, everyone. So that's it for tonight. That's it for this podcast with Grit and Grow with Meghan and Sarah. We have loved talking to you. Please share us, like us. I'm going to get Sarah to start advertising us more. And we're going to get out there, and we're hoping that you guys put comments. Let us know what you're thinking. If there's anything you'd love to hear us talk about, let us know. We're kind of going by what we see right now out in the world, and we're things that we've seen through our clients and stuff. And we'd love to hear more about what you might want to hear from us, right?
All right, folks. Until next time.
Bye, guys.
I'm living for